Hello legends and lollygaggers, my name is TVSkyne, and welcome to Apex Legends, the latest game to try and make a splash in the Battle Royale genre, going up against games like Fortnite, and PUBG, and Battlefield, and Call of Duty. That Realm Royale fantasy game that I saw someone play once, there's a Minecraft Battle Royale mode. Battle Right had a Battle Royale mode, right? Like, they had a... Battle Right did a thing with Battle Royale, and then... I don't know if anyone plays that. Maybe. I don't know if it's Battlefront probably. They're announcing one tomorrow, I'm sure. Like, Battlefront probably has one, and League of Legends maybe. I don't know. Overwatch probably working at one behind the scenes for like a limited game mode or something. What I'm trying to get at is that it's an oversaturated genre, so it might be worth asking the question, why talk about Apex Legends in particular? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, because a lot of people are talking about it right now, and I'm a YouTuber, and it's good for search engine optimization, and it gets people to click on your videos if you're talking about something that's popular right now. That's part one, I fully acknowledge that. But the other part is that the game is developed by Respawn Entertainment, a developer who I am very fond of, because they made the excellent Titanfall games that I'm still rather annoyed and salty that EA decided to bury by releasing Titanfall 2 at the worst possible time that game could have been released, essentially shuttering its chances at the kind of success that it deserved, enabling EA to force Respawn Entertainment to work on a Battle Royale game instead of Titanfall 3, which... anyway... I have some grievances with EA, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about Apex Legends and Respawn Entertainment and some of the stuff that makes this relatively unique for a Battle Royale game. Now, as you can probably tell by just looking at the screen right now, I'm level 1 and I have absolutely no currencies of any kind in my account, which seems to indicate that I haven't played the game at all. Well, I'm here to tell you, sir, that you are wrong. I have played the trading mode. I've played that, and part of the reason why we aren't really looking at gameplay here is because that's not really what the channel is about. We are going to be looking at visuals. We're going to be looking at aesthetics, character design, visuals, and story. Because Apex Legends is a hero shooter. That's one of the ways in which it's trying to stand out in the overcrowded Battle Royale market. It's trying to be a hero shooter Battle Royale, which means it's taking quite a few cues from Overwatch when it comes to designing the characters that you can play. Unlike in Fortnite, where everybody's the same character just with different skins on, in Apex Legends you are theoretically a bunch of very different individual characters who have different abilities, different motivations, different things that they want. Now, Apex Legends is not like a story-driven game, but there is a lot of stuff going on with the characters' personalities in their voice lines, in their various kill animations, what they call their finishers, that are these special animations that play when you kill enemies under certain circumstances. So there's a lot more personality being attempted to be communicated here than in Fortnite, where like everybody can have the same dance, everybody can have the same skins, everybody can have the same abilities of all kinds. Here, there's an individualism that's attempted to be put on display. So we're going to be looking at two characters today. We're going to be looking at Bangalore, and we're going to be looking at Bloodhound. We're not going to be looking at any more than that because this video should not be more than 4.5 hours long. So we're going to try, I'm going to try and limit myself just a little bit. Bangalore is a good place to start. First of all, because she's first alphabetically, but also because she's your basic FPS protagonist. As Soldier 76 is to Overwatch, Bangalore is to Apex Legends. The basic soldier, the basic fighter, the one who, like, she shoots things with her gun and throws grenades and calls in an airstrike, and that's about it. There's nothing really too outlandish about her. She's not like a gas-throwing science maniac or a robot or a dude who can do holograms like he's Budget Mysterio or something like that, and she doesn't warp between dimensions. She's just an ordinary soldier who shoots things with guns and guns things with shooting. To that end, we can read from her lore entry on the website that she was born into a military family where she, her parents, and her 4 older brothers all served in the IMC Armed Forces. Bangalore has been an exceptional soldier since she was young. She was top of her class at the IMC Military Academy, and the only cadet who could take apart a peacekeeper, equip it with a precision choke hop-up, I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool, and put it back together in under 20 seconds blindfolded. 3 years ago, Anita, that's her name is Anita Williams, Bangalore's the code name, Anita and her brother Jackson were ordered to retrieve a mercenary fleet from the Outlands to aid in the IMC's fight against the militia. However, their unit lost contact with IMC HQ and were ambushed on arrival. The squad scattered, but Jackson stayed behind to give his sister time to escape. Alone, and with no way home, Anita put her training, extensive weapon knowledge, and competitive spirit to work by joining the Apex Games. Now, she fights to raise money for passage back to the IMC home base, where she hopes to reunite with what remains of her family. Like I said, basic FPS protagonist character with a basic FPS protagonist weak plot. She's alone, trapped behind enemy lines, but she's an elite soldier, so she's gonna scavenge whatever weapons she can and fight her way home, damn it. She essentially sounds like she could be the protagonist of Titanfall 3, except this isn't Titanfall 3 because EA wouldn't let Respawn make Titanfall 3, so instead they had to make this Battle Royale. Anyway, not talking about EA right now. And that sort of basic FPS character concept bleeds over into her character design, which is, in every way, very basic, very simple, and rather... This is not a criticism, but it's unexceptional. She's not, again, like I said, she's not this outlandish cartoon space sci-fi character. She's someone who you could probably, plop her down into one of the modern Call of Duty Modern Warfare games, and she wouldn't look out of place at all. She looks like she could be in any Modern Warfare or Battlefield game that is set relatively close to modern times. It's not like a spaceman jumping in medieval times. It's the basic soldier character design. That being said, there are still a few interesting things about it. Now, her character design mostly uses very drab colors. We've got a lot of browns and grays and blacks and just sort of down-to-earth, not very bright, not very colorful, not very interesting colors, but there are a couple of color splashes. The grenades that are hanging off her character. This is a lovely little bit of gameplay character design synergy where the character design is signaling to you one of the things that this character is capable of doing. They're telling you, this character has these grenades. Now, they don't look like frag grenades, but they look like they might contain, like, something else. They look kind of like tear gas grenades or something. Probably be wary of those. And one of the ways in which the character design does this is by making the colors stand out. These grenades are about the only splash of bright color on Anita's or Bangalore's entire character design. There's a little bit of bright yellow, juxtaposed with this very bright white that makes it stand out against the drab colors of most of the rest of her character design. And that works really well. It communicates something about what the character can do, and it's a functional piece of character design as well. Like, she can throw grenades as an ability in-game. It makes sense for her to have grenades on her person at all times. I do wish that her ultimate would be communicated in the same way. Like, her ultimate is about calling in an airstrike, so if she had some kind of communicator or some kind of, like, glowing thing on her that would tell people, hey, this character can communicate with other people and call in things that maybe, like, maybe she can target something and drop it. Like, there would be ways to communicate a little bit more of that. I think they've tried to do that with the antennae and the radio communicator thing that she's got on her back. But for my money, it doesn't really work. I would make the antenna just a little bit more noticeable, like maybe give them some more branches, make them a little bit more visible and prominent in her character design to really communicate the thing that she's someone who can call for outside help. Essentially, that's her ultimate. That's one of the things she can do as a character. Something else that's interesting, when you're designing female character designs in modern military shooters, you often run into a little bit of a problem because, like, the equipment that modern militaries use isn't really designed to gender a person. Like, it's not really designed to show off their curves or to really show off the physique of their body. It's designed to be as much as possible one size fits all and to hide the outlines of people's bodies and to, give them protection and be functional rather than aesthetic. So when you're designing a character and you want the character's femininity to be visible, when you want the femininity to be obvious, as a character designer, you kind of have to square that circle of not making their outfit look kind of ridiculous, like not making them run around like Hideo Kojima, for instance, did in like a bikini bra and panties, just so you can really show off, yeah, it's a lady girl who has the boobies and the stuff, but simultaneously not completely annihilating their outward gender markers. And that's a difficult circle to square in character design. And one of the ways that character designers often solve this problem is, especially in like a medieval fantasy, is by giving female characters boob plate. Like, that's one of the reasons why boob plate exists at all as a character design feature. And I'm not talking about the practical applications of boob plate or whatever, but as a character design feature, one of the reasons is because it's a really easy way to signal, hey, this character has breasts, which means it's probably a lady. That's essentially what it is. It's a big signpost that you put on the character that says, lady with booby breast bits on her, that's because she's a girl. And it's, as you can probably tell by my tone of voice, I find that that's kind of it's a very basic thing. Like, it's kind of tacky and is really obvious and is not very interesting from a character design perspective because, again, you're sacrificing some practical aspect of the character to make a statement, hey, lady girl over here with the breasts. Bangalore manages to square that circle in a slightly different way. She has boob plate, but it's a much more subtle version of it. What she's got going on here is this metal plate on the top of her chest, which is reflective, and something that's reflective usually catches the attention of people, which gives her, like, without being ridiculously overstated or being like a big set of titty armor, it does give her that slightly hourglass-like shape by widening her torso a little bit, by highlighting her chest area a little bit. It gives the impression of a slightly slimmer waist, which is added to by the belts that are present here. And then the really clever thing is the coat that she's wearing here, which is a completely practical coat. It's not like a lady coat with girl features or anything. It's a completely genderless, you know, sensible military coat. But because you've got the belts and the breastplate going on, it kind of flares out into something that, like, if you're not looking too closely, could look a little bit like a skirt, and which has the added benefit of giving her slightly wider hips. And I think this is a really elegant way to square the circle of that particular problem, to create a character who's obviously feminine without, you know, creating a ridiculous Barbie doll character who doesn't look like she belongs on a modern battlefield. This is a really nice way to have a compromise where the character design says feminine, but it doesn't say, like, Malibu Barbie, but with a gun. Which is a mistake that I sometimes see character designers make, Mr. Hideo Kojima in Metal Gear Solid 5 with the quiet, what the hell were you thinking? And that's just really well managed. That also, of course, comes across, like, you've got the face, which is somewhat more dainty and has somewhat more feminine features. That also obviously helps. But, like, the ability to meld the practical concerns of someone being a sensible soldier who's just trying to get home to their family with the need to communicate. Also, she's a female, feminine lady girl with lady things and who does woman stuff. Like, I just like the compromise. Outside of that, cool hairdo. Like, it's a really nice hairdo. There's a, like, the thing is, like, with a lot of modern military shooter protagonists, like, they tend to all fall into, like, the same general mold of, like, some dude with, like, close cropped hair and, like, a slightly scruffy beard who looks like 100 billion other dudes that you could find on, I don't know, Tinder or something. Like, you just scroll through them and you see 50 million shooter protagonists just going by, I imagine. And this, like, just by having her have this slightly more outrageous hairdo that it looks cool and it looks exceptional, you give the character a personality expression. Like, you set her apart from other standard FPS shooter characters without making her kind of an outlandish sci-fi fantasy character. Now, I do have one thing we're going to be talking about, especially when we talk about Bloodhound a little bit later, is the Rob Liefeld Syndrome that's afflicting quite a few characters in Apex Legends. Now, if you don't know what that is, Rob Liefeld is an American comic artist who has worked for DC and Marvel and Image Comics, and he worked together with Todd McFarlane for a while. Dark Horse, I think he doesn't work for, and he was very famous in the 90s, where he gained a bit of a reputation for creating a certain kind of character design. Specifically, he put pouches on everything. Like, the characters that were designed by Rob Liefeld tended to have absolutely atrocious anatomy, for one thing, but also they just had pouches everywhere. Like, just pouches around their thighs and around their arms and biceps and around their shoulders and on their backs and around their waist and around their ankles. Like, just belts with pouches everywhere for no discernible reason. Like, they were maybe they were ammo pouches. It wasn't really clear what was in them or what purpose they were supposed to serve. They were just kind of there to look cool. A lot of the Apex Legends characters have a little bit of that issue. Now, it's not really in evidence with Bangalore, who's got a few pouches, but they mostly look relatively sensible, like they're probably for putting bullets in. But this one in here in particular is like, this seems really inconveniently placed. Like, how are you going to reach that and pick something out of it with precision in the middle of combat if that thing is hanging around there? And there are little issues like that. For instance, all the belts that she's got going on around her legs they don't seem to serve any purpose in holding any part of her costume together or holding any part of her outfit together, or, like, because with all the straps that she's got going on up on her chest, all of those are holding something. Like, they're holding the grenades, they're holding, like, the pouches, they're holding the stuff that, like, the flying apparatus she's got strapped to her back, they're holding her weapons, they're holding the armor, but then the ones around her legs are, like, they're just belts. They're just there. And they don't do it. Like, it's the same with the belts around her boots. Like, why are they? Do they close the boots? Do they hold them on her feet? Is that the best you can do for holding things on? Like, and they are just kind of these little weird extraneous details that don't really ruin the design. They're not really a big problem. They're just the kind of thing where I'm going, like, wouldn't it be more clean and kind of nicer to look at if you didn't have all this extra detail for no reason? Because, like, the knee pads are good. They make sense. Like, the knee pads are sensible. The kind of protection that you would want if you're jumping around in some kind of environment all day, you're falling on your knees, sliding through things. That makes sense, but then the belts are just kind of weird. Additionally, when it comes to the character, like, she's a soldier. She's someone who's spent her entire life as a soldier fighting, doing combat stuff. I would like to see a little bit more evidence of that on her character. Like, she's someone who runs into firefights. She's someone who's been fighting blood sport battles for probably quite a long time in order to gain enough money to go home. I would like to see some battle damage on her. Like, I would like to see some scars. I would like to see some cybernetic patches to replace a part of her skull that got blown open one time, or a cybernetic arm. Like, some little sci-fi things that are not too outlandish, that are not too ridiculous, but which just kind of tell us that, yeah, she's been fighting for a long time. She's an experienced warrior, and she's taken a lot of hits, but she gets up anyway and keeps fighting, especially since one of her abilities is that if she's taking fire, she runs faster. Right? Like, one of her abilities literally involves her taking fire, so it would be nice to see some evidence, like, or just torn clothing. Like, just have her outfit be kind of a little bit torn up and have bullet holes in it and stuff like that to kind of showcase that this lady has been in a lot of fights, she's been in a lot of battles, she's seen a lot of action, and that's showing on her body. And that's a thing that generally I have an issue with a lot of the characters in this game, is that most of them just don't really show any battle damage. Like, they don't really show any evidence of their long and extensive experience doing blood sport for the entertainment of hundreds of thousands of people. Which is a general thing that kind of bothers me with a lot of video game character design, is that there's often a priority to keep the character designs, air quotes, clean, so that they don't look too unattractive, I guess. Like, it's true that if you do too much battle damage and scarring and stuff like that, you lose some of the appeal of the character, but I think that appeal is worth sacrificing to do more visual storytelling about what kind of lives that the characters lead. Which leads us on to Bloodhound. Now, remember how I talked about Rob Liefeld Syndrome? Remember how I talked about having too many pouches and things that are just kind of attached to you that don't seem to do anything? Well, hello, Bloodhound. Oh boy. He's got pouches on his back. He's got pouches across his chest. He's got pouches around his waist. He's got pouches on his like on his hips. He's got pouches on his back. He's got pouches everywhere. And here it gets a little bit silly. Like, it ges a little, what is he even do? What is even in them? What are they even for? And this is the point where, like, that's too many. This is getting distracting and kind of silly, where I would say take some of them out. Give him something else. Like, he's a hunter, he's a tracker, he's a guy who tracks people down. He's probably got hunting trophies. He's got something that showcases, you know, the life of tracking through the undergrowth or through the brush that could hang from him, that could do a better job of expressing who he is as a character than just a bunch of places to keep things in that don't really come into handy. And that's, again, unlike with Bangalore, who has a reason why she's got all these belts and straps and stuff on, because she needs to carry all her grenades. Bloodhound doesn't really have that. Like, he doesn't really have any ability that makes use of some special gadget that he needs to carry in a pouch like that. So it's extraneous, just kind of too much detail, which is kind of the thing that bothers me about Bloodhound's character design in general, is that there's a lot of detail going on. There's so many things happening everywhere in his character design that, for me, it kind of messes with the clarity of the character. But there is a point to that. Like, there is partly a point to why this is and why that makes a certain degree of sense. But for the moment, I feel like there's a way to clean up the character design a little bit, to make it a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more readable and obvious, without sacrificing the point of making him so overloaded that we're going to get to in just a second. Because Bloodhound, at least according to the official information from Respawn Entertainment and EA, is a non-binary character, by which they mean they don't really say that the person identifies as non-binary, but that they're not supposed to have any gender for the purposes of their character design. They're not supposed to have any gender for the purposes of their role in the game. They're just a tracker who tracks things and kills things, but they're not, like, unlike with Bangalore, where they have made a conscious effort to showcase that she is female, that she has feminine traits. With Bloodhound, instead, there's an effort to obscure what their gender is. I think I've called them he once or twice, because that's the default that you tend to jump to, but the idea of the character design here is that all of this detail, all of this guff, all of this extra stuff that they've got attached to them is supposed to obscure every identifiable part of who they are. We don't know what gender they are. We don't know what race they are. We don't know what age they are. We don't really know anything about who's inside this big, bulky suit. And that's part of the point of all this guff. Because if you look at the character, you can see here the kind of shape that's created by all the stuff that Bloodhound has got strapped to them. It obscures, like, we can't see if there's a masculine shape in there or if there's a feminine shape in there. We can't see what kind of body type is in there. We can't see what kind of body shape it is. We just get this kind of awkward, lumpy shape that makes them alien a little bit. Like, they look a little bit alien. They look a little bit implacable and unplaceable. And there's actually another character design that I love that has used a similar trick in the past. If you've ever played Final Fantasy VI, there is a secret character in that game called Gogo, who also is a character like where we don't know what gender they are, or like what species they are, or what they even look like, or what they even are, because the whole point of the character is that they are an enigma. They're a blank slate upon which you can project whatever the hell you want underneath. And that character design, too, was designed by the legendary character designer Amano. What the heck is his name? Yoshitaka Amano. There we go. I kept saying Yoshida Amano, but that's not real name. Yoshitaka Amano, who did the character design for him. And the way that they designed that character was also by draping them in just stuff. Like, just they were just covered in cloth and details and all kinds of little things that just adorned them everywhere and completely obscured everything about the shape underneath. And I think it's something similar that they're attempting here with all of the, nonsense on it there. And while I don't really like how noisy the character design is, like how much is just going on in every square centimeter of this character design, I can't deny that it's effective. Like, it's doing the job that it's supposed to do. And unlike Bangalore, Bloodhound here has actually got some battle damage. You can see scarring and tearing on their clothes. You can see, like, there's dirt and there's the evidence of a life spent tracking things through the undergrowth. That I really appreciate that. Now, the hat, I'm not so sure about. I think one of the points with Bloodhound really is to make them look alien. Like, to make them look like they could be in a Star Wars movie, which genuinely, they really could be in a Star Wars movie. Like, I would not be surprised to see that character sitting in the background of the cantina. I would be surprised to see the Raven, or the Crow, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the character themselves. So, in that sense, it works. Like, it makes them look kind of, unlike, again, Bangalore, who's supposed to look very basic and very standard and very relatable, Bloodhound is supposed to look kind of outlandish and weird and foreign and strange and inscrutable. Like, you're not supposed to know or understand what's going on with this person. Why are they wearing this stuff on their head? Who knows? There could be some deep spiritual reason to it. They certainly do quote a lot from the Allfather, which is something that we can also talk about in a second, because that is one of my little specialties, is Norse mythology. And Bloodhound here seems to quote from Norse mythology a lot. And in fact, we should actually read the bio that they've got on the website. We haven't even done that yet, to get a little bit of a sense about what kind of character they're supposed to be, at least from Respawn's side. Bloodhound is known across the Outlands as one of the greatest game hunters the Frontier has ever seen, and that's about all anyone knows. Their identity is a mystery wrapped in layers of rumors. They are fabulously wealthy, a bloodthirsty murderer, a Goliath whisperer, a former slave, half-bat, and a dozen other things depending on who's doing the whispering. All anyone truly knows is that Bloodhound is a force to be reckoned with in the Apex games. Bloodhound's unparalleled tracking skills are a boon to any team they join, helping them root out hidden opponents and tracking the enemy's movements. Calling on Earth's old Norse gods to guide them, Bloodhound believes that destiny is a path that has already been laid out, eventually carrying all to their death. But with that knowledge comes strength, because until that day comes, Bloodhound knows that they can't be stopped. So, Norse mythology. I've been streaming the God of War game for PS4 recently, and I've been talking about the Norse mythology that's inspiring that game, and how Norse mythology is often kind of corrupted and used in weird ways in video games, because there isn't really a Norse mythology pope who can kind of object to their religion being misappropriated for video games, and especially here, I'm not sure how exactly Odin is supposed to come into Bloodhound's abilities here, because Odin is not a god of the hunt. The god of the hunt, there's a few in Norse mythology. Magni is one of them, I think. But anyway, that's besides the point. Odin is the god of wisdom. He's the god of, the thing that makes sense is that Odin is the god, is the all-seeing All-Father. He sits on his throne, Hlilskjalf, which is a difficult word to pronounce, far up in the north, where he can see out over all the world, and he sees all things, and his ravens, Hugin and Munin, bring him news from all corners of the world and act as his spies and stuff like that. Like, he's very much a character who's about wisdom, about knowing more than the other person does, like having sight and seeing everything. That makes a certain degree of sense with the character being a tracker, but again, Odin is not a hunting god. That's not really his function. He's a war god, he's a death god, he's a wisdom god, he's a magic god, but he's not really a hunting god. So it's kind of, it would have been interesting if they'd chosen a more obscure god from Norse mythology, like again, a god who's actually a hunting god. And there's one on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't remember exactly what their name is. It'll probably come to me at some point. Scale is one of them. That would have been more interesting to me than just kind of going with the most obvious Norse god possible and just kind of trying, okay, he's an all-father, he sees all, I guess that works for a tracker-ish, but instead find something that's truly appropriate, or look into the Germanic gods. That's just a pet peeve of mine. I'm a little annoyed when Norse mythology gets kind of slapdash applied to a character who they don't quite fit. Because, like, the hunter the gods have sent is not the kind of thing you say for the All-Father. Anyway. I do like Bloodhound. Like, in general, I do like that Bloodhound, like, in contrast to Bangalore, who's so basic, that Bloodhound is just so out there, so kind of weird and strange and off-putting and awkward-looking, and I do like that the idea of keeping even their gender a secret. Like, every part of their identity is hidden. It doesn't matter who's underneath the mask. The character design, the costume, the outfit is the thing that is the character. I really do like that as a concept because, again, that's rather unusual for, especially for, like, a hero shooter. Overwatch doesn't have a character who's like that, and like, not even Paladins. Is that the other one, the one that's kind of copying Overwatch? That one doesn't really have that either, this idea of obliterating an identity, because those games are all about establishing an identity for the character. So that's, conceptually, that's an interesting concept. Conceptually, that's an interesting concept. That's a great sentence. I should use that more often. So yeah, that works. I do think that there are some interesting character designs on display in Apex Legends, and if there is an interest, well, you can head on down into the comments and tell me about it. Ask me to make more videos just like this one. We can do at least another 3, talking about 2 characters per thing, so if there's an interest, head down into the comments and let me know. If there isn't, well, you can, you know, I don't know why you're still watching the video, but I guess you can not subscribe and not like and not hit the bell icon to get notified about new videos because you don't want to, I don't know. If you want to help me make more videos like this and make videos about all kinds of different stuff, which is what I try to do on this channel sometimes, then you can head on over to Patreon, where you can subscribe with anything. Like, if you have $1 and you don't mind me having that $1, then that $1 alongside a bunch of other very generous people's dollars help me a lot in paying my rent and keeping the lights on and having internet, which is good. So if you want to do that, I would be very grateful. Of course, if you don't want to sign up for like a subscription and do a thing every month, then you can head on over to Coffee instead, where you can give me like a one-time tip to say, hey, that was a nice video you made where you talked about stuff for a while. Thumbs up. And you give me a little one-time tip that way. If you're not able to do any of that, or if you don't want to do any of that, of course, that's completely okay. I'm just really happy that you've watched this video this far. This is a long video, and I talk a lot. So I'm just glad when people even get to this part at the end. Of course, if you haven't liked this video, there's also an option for that. If you would like to dislike this video, well, there's a dislike button for it. Unfortunately, though, I was flying over this battlefield out in the middle of nowhere, full of buildings and weapons and stuff, and I was looking out the window, I was trying to take some pictures, and I dropped the dislike button. It just fell down there, and now there's a little bit of a scavenger hunt going on. In fact, the prize is a $100 gazillion billion million in space dollars, and if you want to find it, well, you can just hop on one of the planes, and once you come over the battlefield, you can jump out, pick yourself a point to land, and assuming no one else has gotten the same great idea, you can probably just find the dislike button lying around there, and you can claim the prize for yourself. Of course, if there are other people in the battlefield there, well, you really won't have any choice but to fight them for the honor of claiming the dislike button. And isn't it just convenient that there's a lot of weapons lying around unattended for some mysterious reason? Good luck! Thank you very much for watching.